Hello guys. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe now, because what you're about to dive into is a story shaped by chemistry that feels almost impossible to script. A slow burn connection between two people whose presence on screen has sparked an unexpected wave of fascination. This narrative explores the quiet electricity between Jingting and Ruonan, not as celebrities or characters in a drama, but as two individuals whose interactions, both spoken and unspoken, create a world that feels soft, warm, and almost startlingly real. As you read, imagine each moment unfolding like a film reel. Gentle lighting, close-up frames, lingering glances, and the unmistakable rhythm of two people who never rush but somehow always find their way to the same emotional wavelength. It begins on a quiet morning before filming starts, long before the noise of the crew fills the air. The sun climbs slowly, spilling gold over the pavement, and he arrives first, coffee in hand, tapping his fingers absent-mindedly against the cup. There's a calmness in the way he stands, as though he is comfortable in silence. She appears moments later, hair tucked behind her ear, cheeks still cool from the early air, and when she notices him, her steps naturally slow, not out of hesitation, but because acknowledging someone important tends to soften the way we move. Early again, she says, warmth threading through her voice. He doesn't look surprised. Instead, a small smile forms as though he has been expecting her all along. They fall into easy conversation, the kind that has no real purpose except to exist. Like a gentle current that doesn't know where it began. It's in these simple exchanges that something subtly magnetic starts to unfold. Their laughter is never loud, but it's full, the kind that hums quietly in the space between two people who aren't trying to impress each other. In a world where so much connection feels forced, theirs feels like an exhale. As filming progresses, their dynamic becomes something of a quiet legend among the crew. Not because it's romantic, not because anyone dares label it, but because it feels organic, unmanufactured, the type of chemistry that actors can't fabricate even with decades of experience. He listens when she speaks, really listens. She anticipates his reactions with a kind of instinct that suggests familiarity. They move in sync without choreographing it, reaching for props at the same moment, stepping aside for one another as though sharing the same internal rhythm. And sometimes, their eyes meet for reasons neither of them comments on. It isn't flirtation. It isn't tension. It's an understanding that forms quietly, like two matching threads woven into the same fabric. Between takes, there's a particular moment the crew still remembers. She sits on the edge of the set, scrolling through her phone while absent-mindedly munching on snacks. He catches sight of crumbs at the corner of her lip, steps closer, and without thinking, hands her a napkin. She laughs, embarrassed, and he shrugs in that effortless way that says it's not a big deal, but the softness in his eyes betrays a subtle fondness. The camera operators watching from afar exchange glances, because this is the kind of interaction that reveals more than dialogue ever could. It's these small, almost imperceptible gestures that form the heart of their connection. There's another late afternoon scene they rehearse, shot after shot, until the sky begins to dim. The director calls for a short break. She wraps her arms around herself against the creeping chill, and he quietly removes his jacket, placing it over her shoulders without waiting for permission. She looks up at him, surprised for just a moment, then settles into the warmth like it's something she's known before. They don't speak. They don't need to. The fading light glows behind them, turning the scene into something that looks suspended in time. What makes their chemistry remarkable is not grand gestures, but the way they gravitate toward each other naturally. There's a scene where they sit on opposite ends of a couch during practice, reviewing lines. Slowly, Almost unconsciously, the distance between them shrinks until they're sitting shoulder to shoulder, reading from the same script page. He leans slightly to point out a detail, and she shifts closer to follow the movement. Their focus remains on the script, yet the closeness speaks a language that is entirely separate. It's this invisible thread that the audience feels, even though they never see moments like these behind the camera. During a lunch break, a playful argument erupts, one of those silly disagreements about food preferences. She insists pineapple belongs on pizza. He counters that it's a crime against nature. They go back and forth with mock seriousness, and the entire table watches the banter unfold like a tennis match. Eventually, she wins not because her argument is stronger, but because he gives in with a laugh, shaking his head as though conceding to her has become a habit he doesn't mind. Later that day, someone delivers a pizza to the set. Half of it is pineapple. Nobody claims responsibility, but when she takes a slice and looks over at him with raised eyebrows, he just smirks like someone caught telling a lie he doesn't regret. Even when they're not speaking, their presence carries an unmistakable chemistry. During one late-night shoot, she sits on a chair while makeup retouches her hair. He stands a few feet away, watching the monitor, but every few seconds his gaze drifts back to her. He doesn't realize he's doing it until she catches him, lifting her brows in silent question. He looks away with a small, sheepish grin, scratching the back of his neck, and the makeup artist tries not to laugh. On another day, she feels off, tired eyes, slower steps, a quiet heaviness. He notices without being told. Instead of asking what's wrong, he simply sits beside her during a break, letting silence fill the space gently. He hands her a warm drink, not making it a big gesture, just placing it in her hands and offering a nod. She smiles softly, and the weight on her shoulders seems to ease, even if only slightly. He doesn't try to fix anything. He just stays, steady and warm, and somehow that's enough. What truly defines their connection is the way time seems to stretch differently around them. When they rehearse emotional scenes, their voices soften instinctively, as though speaking too loudly might break something fragile between them. They pause more, breathe more, listen more. And when the director calls cut, there are moments when neither moves immediately. They stay in the emotion for a few seconds longer, looking at each other like they aren't quite ready to step out of that shared space. It's subtle, but it's there every time. When filming nears its end, something shifts, not dramatically, not in a way anyone else would notice, but in the small ways that matter. They linger a bit longer after conversations. They walk side by side even when they don't have to. He begins waiting for her before heading to the next location. She starts teasing him more softly, almost protectively. These are the signs of two people preparing for distance they don't want to acknowledge yet. On the final day, after the last shot wraps and applause fills the air, she stands quietly watching the set around her. There's pride in her eyes, but also a shade of melancholy she can't quite hide. He approaches slowly, stopping beside her without saying anything at first. They look at the emptying space together, a shared memory already turning into something nostalgic. "You did well," he finally says, voice low and sincere. She turns toward him, smiling in that gentle way he's grown fond of. "So did you." There's a pause, not awkward, not uncertain, just full of something unspoken. He wants to say more. She wants to hear more. But neither pushes the moment. Instead, he nudges her shoulder slightly, a gesture full of quiet affection, and she laughs softly, leaning into the contact before stepping away. They walk out of the set side by side, the fading light casting long shadows behind them. Whatever their relationship is, friendship, connection, something growing quietly between the lines, it continues in the unhurried pace of two people who don't need labels to understand the gravity of what they shared. If you want a continuation, a different tone, a more romantic version, or a deeper emotional arc, tell me and I'll craft the next chapter.